Segment. All right, guys. All right. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. We have officially impeached Donald Trump a second time. If you are just popping into the stream and you're like, what the hell is going on? Who is this guy? Who's he talking to? Why is he so aggressive? Because I'm legitimately happy. Sometimes, and I know how fucked up that sounds. Like, you're happy, like he's going through all this. I thought you were like on the side of peace and love. Sometimes you really just gotta like hope that the presidency, like, sometimes you just gotta hope that democracy, or at least the facets of it that we think exist beyond what we know about people in power and how they use that power to effectively change the course of how we have discourse. The things that we struggle with, the economic, the socioeconomic struggles, the racial struggles. Sometimes you just really need that one W. You know, you need that one W to be like, all right, at least in terms of them, the ruling class, at least there's some form of like checks and balances. Because if they would have been like, no, he's not being impeached, then I would have been like, all right, so then what stops anybody from really doing anything? Like, I guess slavery is going to be legal eventually, because like, what stops anybody from just being like, well, you know, the courts didn't like it, so I'm just going to go do it myself anyway. Like, so it's nice. It's nice, you know, it's nice to have that cornerstone when it comes to thinking about democracy and the rule of law when people break it, just obviously and blatantly. Now, does that mean, oh, the fascist uprising is over and we can all go home and have brunch? No, of course not. There's still a lot to be fought for, and I know a lot of it will be boring, and we'll be sitting here just chatting, talking about it for a period of time in which we'll be like, oh, you know, it was great here and it was great there, and you know, I guess we'll fight about this tomorrow type shit. But no. Like, we need to be happy about this as a group of people. We need to be happy about this as a collective unit of force against, you know, those who wish to destroy us, i.e., the white supremacists. So that's that. But it's time for the content. I said today I was going to do it. Me and Ben Shapiro going to war. So I'll be smoking. I'll be smoking. I need it for my heart. Cannabis helps my heart a lot. I have some heart issues, so that's a thing. And I was thinking about debating Ben Shapiro in my head, because that's as far as I'll ever get to actually doing it. And I was like, I feel like sometimes you're just really disingenuous. And I feel like if you really want to get to the heart of why a lot of conservatives or Republicans think the way they do, you got to listen, and you got to take in some knowledge from the other side to really feel like, all right, so what's going on here? What are you talking about? But then I got into like a whole thing about like how like full of shit he is. And I got so angry and I was like upset. Like, I could tell like just in the beginning of our conversations, if I ever had a conversation with him, you're being disingenuous. You're full of shit. So let's see what happens when you really get to figure out how full of shit people are. And we're going to start this with Ben Shapiro saying, here's what unity really means to leftists. And I promise you, he's going to get it wrong. We're going to debunk every second of this. So if you're not strapped in, go grab your drinks, go grab your snacks, and make sure like you paying attention and you're here, because it's about to get deep and it's about to get hilarious. So if you've been laughing with me along this time, oh, we're going to laugh a little bit more, baby.
Alrighty, we're about to look at Ami Horowitz's latest video, his Man on the Street video. You can view his whole video over at the Daily Wire YouTube channel. Apparently, Ami went around New York and asked a bunch of New Yorkers about whether they were ready for unity and what they thought unity meant.
I'm Ami Horowitz, and I'm here in the East Village. Now the election is over, the Democrats have been pushing the message of togetherness and unity.
No, we have not. Joe Biden has been doing that while we've all been screaming, put them in jail, accountability. Why are we sitting here acting like, all right, we won the presidency, like we could all calm down now? No, we need accountability. So he's lying within the first 10 seconds of his video. Cool. I see where we're going to go with this. I see where we're headed with this.
But unity on whose terms? How important is it, the value of toleration and accepting of other people?
It's the most important thing.
Extremely important.
He's in downtown areas. He's not in any hood areas. Of course he's not.
You know, this divisiveness in this country is has become terrible.
You know, be compassionate and understanding and be as supportive as you can.
I'll never understand fully why people spend all their time, trying to hate on one group.
It's very important. It's one of the most important things. I'm one of the most tolerant.
What did I say? What did I say earlier when we were doing the Candace Owens piece? I hate that smug look I hate that smug shit, bro. Don't bring that shit to my table. Like, here's some, you guys love unity. Well, I've got you now. If that's the case, then I know. I'm going to let the video play. I'm sorry, but like.
People, because I'm one of the most empathetic people.
Do Republicans have any value at all?
No.
No, they're delusional.
I knew he was aiming for that, but he's gonna spin it like, oh, okay. I'm gonna let it play because I have a better thing, but I just want to see where he goes with that.
I think they're disgusting.
Yeah, you can pause right there for a second. I mean, that's of course exactly right? And then the minute, once you say that tolerance is the highest value, once you say that tolerance is the only value, then where you go from there is that anybody who has a value system different from that as their chief value system is a horrible person. Right? See,
Okay. He did the thing earlier than I expected. Like, I didn't think he was gonna jump the conclusion so far. So tell me this. So explain this to me. If tolerance is your highest value, I'm tolerant of people, and then you are met with a group of intolerant people, why would I have tolerance for your intolerance? You literally sit there and you're like, black people deserve everything that they get because of the decisions that they make. And if they made, he said this himself. So I'm not even like paraphrasing some random shit I saw on Twitter. This is coming from that man's mouth himself on the Joe Rogan podcast, no less. If black kids are like have a decision between picking up a book and picking up a gun, they seem to choose the gun more often. So that means that like they're leading themselves down a life of that, and they're making that decision. If they had the better brain set to make a better decision to pick up the book and actually better their lives, then they would be able to get out of that system of perpetual systemic violence. Therefore, it's the decisions that they make that perpetuate the system, not the system itself forcing them to make these decisions. Okay, fair. So how are you going to sit there and not understand why people wouldn't lump in, and this is the point I was going to make earlier before I stopped, why wouldn't you understand that they're really talking about Trump supporters and the Republicans that enable them, therefore tying them together? If I'm sitting there at a pro-Black Panther party and everybody in there geared up, whatever, and one of the Black Panther people there starts saying some shit about like, oh, we gotta kill all the white people and we gotta kill all the Mexicans and we gotta kill all the Asians. Like, if everybody in that party sits there drinking they drink, doing whatever, smoking they smoke, whatever, and they all not like excluding him, then I have to assume that you are at least tolerant of their ideas, but their ideas are intolerant. Therefore, if 50% of your views are tolerant and the other 50% are intolerant, the intolerant views win out, because that means that you do not have a full view of the entire world as of tolerant. Like, I hate that word now because I have to say it so much, but that's hypocrisy. For you not to be able to make the connection, and this is what pissed me off, and this is the thought I had, and I'm glad that I could get back to that train of thought without needing the prompt itself that I had in my head. This is disingenuous. And this is disingenuous to the maximum scale, because you know what she's saying. You know why she's saying that, and you know how she got to that thought. And when he asked all the questions, like, are they misogynistic? Are they racist? They themselves might not say or do these things in public, but they enable the people who are not even willing to mask it. Like, Straight mask off racism, straight off go back to your country, straight up there are caravans, straight up Mexico's bringing rapists and drugs, and the black community is plagued with gun violence because they don't know any better, and they're dependent on food stamps and welfare, so they just take life for granted and liberty. Like, these are the values that your party that you're about to stick up for in the next 10 seconds eschew. So how on earth, just because I'm a tolerant person doesn't mean I have to be tolerant of intolerance. Yes, I know somebody in that chat's going to be dumb enough to link me the paradox of intolerance. I get it. I know that. But I'm not referring to it on a grand scale, because from democracy in a two-party system all the way up to fascism, there are several steps that you have to take to get up to that point. So why on earth are you able to sit there and laugh when, like, somebody says, well, are Republicans intolerant? Yeah, they are. That doesn't mean the people, like every single one of them are. The general whole is, because of the bad actors, like the ones. It is so crazy that this video came out today, because clearly he didn't see the shit coming out of the this is probably an old video or whatever, but like, you can't sit there and judge people consistently on them not wanting to be friends with Nazis because they're Nazis. Oh, so I thought you were tolerant of all views, except the ones that literally want to slaughter thousands, if not millions of people for just existing. Like, that sick, disingenuous, like the sick, disingenuous phrasing that allows you to literally be able to point the finger back at people, while then promoting a message of, well, if we want things to be better, then the Democrats need to get on board with it. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not a white supremacist, bro. Like, I don't fuck with this shit. I don't, like, what do you want from me?
This is the self-defeating logic of complete tolerance, is that you can tolerate everybody except somebody who you consider to be intolerant.
I debunked that statement before he even said it, because now at this point, and I hate being the guy on the other side of the aisle who's like, I'm right, you're wrong. But like, if I can predict what you're going to say in a full length like breakdown before you've said it, then maybe you're not on the right side of this discussion. And as much as I would love to be like, well, maybe there's a thin line that we can like agree on here. Maybe there's something that we could say to each other to make us feel good. There's none of that here. There's none of that. And he knows that. Like, that's not the self-defeating logic. I'm tolerant of everybody who's tolerant of everybody. If somehow you have it in your head that like white people should be on top of the breadwinners list, or like disabled people shouldn't have a right to life, or like all this other like shit, like, then what do you want from me? I could see you up in the street and I'll be like, I'll tip my hat, but I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. I don't know why you want me to talk to you.
This actually has a deeper ideological root. It goes back to Herbert Marcuse, who was a Frankfurt School theorist, a neo-Marxist theorist in the 1960s, 1970s. He actually proposed something what he called repressive tolerance. He said that in order for tolerance to flourish, you have to make sure that groups that are intolerant are not allowed to flourish, and that means that you have to shut them down and never allow them to talk again.
So before I let him speak, this goes into what I wanted to talk about with this. We're not gonna do it because I'm just gonna be able to just do it off the top of my head. But you guys remember Nazi Germany, right? And I know we keep going back to Germany, Nazi, because we have fucking Nazis in the country. So sorry that that's the topic of discussion today. But so when after the Second World War, they stomped out all traces of that. Like, you are not allowed to fly the Nazi flag. You are not allowed to eschew this. You are not allowed to join white supremacy groups. Like, you are not allowed to be in this country and speak anywhere even remotely close to that ideology. We didn't do that in this country. We never did that. Which is why it's interesting that, like, I'm supposed to be friends with people who flew the Confederate flag in the Capitol. Like, what do you want? What's your point? Like, what do you want? What do you want so badly that what do you want so badly that you're willing to fly the enemy flag that we all as a nation agreed the Confederacy was a bad idea? Why do you still issue that thought into I'm pro Donald Trump, I'm pro USA with a flag of a group that literally was against the USA? The whole reason it exists is to depart from the United States. You wanted to secede from the Union. Like, do you listen to yourself? Like, do you listen to yourself? Do you listen to yourself? Are you here with me right now? Are you paying attention? You're doing the thing, but blaming the other people for the thing that you yourself are doing. Therefore, nobody's really in this but you and yourself. You argue with yourself, and the demons in your head are like, black people, socialism. Like, what? Yo, you can't be serious. Repressive tolerism is an idea not just from pure neo-Marxism, but from the idea that if an idea is allowed to hold in society long enough, then more people will attach to it and you'll just keep getting a resurgence of it. It's like a virus. Yes, it's quite literally a viral discussion. The more times that you allow, it's the Nazi bar joke of intolerance. So if you don't know the Nazi bar joke of intolerance, okay, here we go. When talking about literal Nazis, a guy opens a bar and has one of his favorite patrons come in every single day. One day, the patron comes in, orders the same drink. We're just going to say, all right, it's a sweet tea. Bring me sweet tea. Chugging it. Glug, glug, glug. And let me get another one. Hands him another one. And at the moment he hands him another one, a guy comes in and he sits down and asks for a drink. And the bartender's like, no, get the fuck out the bar. And he's like, what did I do? And he's like, I know you. You're one of them Nazi skinheads. Like, get the fuck out of my bar. So the guy just leaves. There ain't really an argument between them. So the guy who ordered the sweet tea is like, why would you, get him out of the bar? It's because I don't want his shit, I don't want him around here spitting his shit. But he's like, there's not a lot of people here. What's the worst that could happen? So the problem is he says, I could let that guy into my bar because he's not causing violence. He's not doing anything. That guy at the bar is going to think, okay, it's cool for me to hang out here. So then he brings another one of his friends to the bar. Those two might not be causing any issues, but since they like the spot so much, they'll end up bringing another two group of people, and so on and so forth till it grows. Then all of a sudden you have a bar full of Nazis, and then something happens. So I'm shutting that shit down. Before it even gets a chance to start, I will shut that shit down. No exceptions. Allowing the thought to spread is the first problem. Have these people having these thoughts is fine. Whatever, we could work through it as a group. We could figure out a way to build up an growing passionate response to it. We could whatever, right? We got it, whatever. But the moment it starts to grow up to a point where you can't ignore it, then you want to sit there and be like, well, now it's a bad idea and I think we should stomp it out. It's crazy that his defense is to literally say that regressive tolerance is bad, but knows damn well that his people were prosecuted by the same theory that had to be stomped out using regressive tolerance. That's why I say he's disingenuous. Because pure logic, obvious common sense when it comes from human to human, would be able to show you when you bring up these points, you're doing it from a point of a disingenuous stance. You are not being literal when you're saying that. You want to be the debate lord. You want to be my wife's pussy is so dry. You want to be that guy. You want to be that guy so bad. But when you say these things out loud, and you have a script, or maybe you're just reacting to it, you plan something out in your head, you know for a fact that you are looking at that camera dead in its eyes, and you're lying. So how am I supposed to take you serious? But you have 2.59 million subscribers. You've got platforms all across. You want to be on Fox News tomorrow, they got you. You want to be on this, that, and the other tomorrow, they got you. So how on earth did you gain such a profound following when your logic is so easily like whole poke like
So tolerance requires harsh-handed intolerance. That's the only way that you can actually solve the problem of intolerance.
Mindless or like
Racist.
There's a lot of immorality in them. Every living thing on this earth is a miracle.
Republicans. How would major issues?
I think it's important. Yeah, super important. Yeah. You know, it's not always going to be fair. You know, it's not, and not everybody's going to be happy by the end. But it's important to talk things through.
Otherwise, how do we unify?
Yeah, exactly.
How important is the value of compromising to achieve unity?
It's important. I mean, you do have to compromise. You do have to compromise.
There are areas of common ground. You know, they can reach areas of common ground.
We could compromise on certain things.
There is compromise. For instance, you know, the climate change, which is at the top of the list.
Okay.
And
So there's a compromise to be had there.
there is a compromise to be had, yes.
So, for example, like they would give on like cafe standards,
That sort of
you would
thing.
give on like fracking, that kind of thing.
Well, fracking is a touchy issue.
Can you
and then he does the thing. And then he does the thing. What did I say earlier? And I've said this before in other streams. If you steal, I want everyone to pay attention to this. If you're still in this chat, and let's say you just popped into the stream, you have no idea what's going on. You clearly see it's a political thing, and you're like, all right, I need 30 seconds of your time for you to prove to me that you know what you're talking about, and you're not just a bumbling idiot on Twitch that's just speaking because he wants to be heard. I'm going to show you this analogy, and if this doesn't make sense to you, then you need help, because at this point, like, I can't save you. This is a $10 bill. If you, the viewer, take this $10 bill from me, you have stolen money from me, correct? We're all agreement on that. If I say to you, I want my money back, and I'm ready to fight you over it, I'm ready to throw hands, what's up? So what up with it? Put your hands up, put your hands up. You say you want to fight for the $10 that I have right now because you claim it's yours. Let's compromise on a way to solve this issue. That means that I have to accept your reality that you own the $10 and we're working towards a compromise for this, even though that is not a truth out of either of our sides. You stole the money from me. The only way to compromise would for me to let you keep a portion of whatever you took from me and you give me back whatever you feel is worth us being equal. So if we take the same $10, you want to compromise, I'm not going to do it because I want my $10. I'd have to rip the bill in half. I'd have to split it 5-5. My compromise let you gain when you had nothing and just took from me. That's a compromise. That is effectively a shared compromise. So how on earth would I, like, if this is climate change, why would I let you take it from me and ruin it? How is that a compromise? You just make the world bad for me and then say, well, I could give you a little extra. You know, I could give you a little. That's Republicans' idea of compromising. Take from you and then I'll give you a little something back. That's bullshit. It's bullshit. Like, you know for a fact, Ben, can you compromise on something like climate change to give the Republicans something? But climate change is the thing that Republicans should want because it's better for the earth to heal so we can live on the planet longer and not go fucking extinct.
compromise on something around climate change to give the Republicans something?
Yeah, it would depend on what it was. For instance, they want to go into Anwar, the Arctic National Reserve, to start digging that up.
So you're okay with that?
No, I am not.
Oh, okay.
No.
Is there something you're willing to compromise on climate change to give the Republicans something they want?
Well, they could, as far as carbon emissions goes.
So will you be willing to have a little more carbon emissions?
No.
Oh, you wouldn't. Okay. So there really isn't anything you're willing to compromise on.
Because this is what I was talking about before with positive versus negative net gains for society. What out of climate change would I want to give up if the goal is to not solve the issue of climate change? You're setting me up to fail, to look like the bad guy because I won't concede to your ideals. While at the same time, the thing you want, like, you want half a climate change package. All right, well, that's going to do half as good, which is only going to save us for half the time until we can't pull back any further. Oh, I wish I wouldn't have compromised. We could have had a better Earth. I guess we had to work with them across the aisle. That's disingenuous. That's setting people up for failure. You're interviewing leftists, but you picked an old lady. Like, okay.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm getting the feeling that you don't fully understand the meaning of the word compromise. Can you compromise on?
See, I hate that. That smug ass laugh too. He's setting them up for a position. I could compromise on things like tax. I could compromise on things like green energy, because these things take time. And I'm okay with saying, all right, let's start a slow transition instead of like replacing everybody. But that's a compromise that leads to the end goal of betterment for all. You want me to compromise on it to give the Republicans what? Damaging effects? So we both gain nothing out of this? Okay. All right. I see you there. You're so clever. You're so good.
Absolutely not. There is no compromise.
Okay, by the way, let's just stop it right there for a second. So,
Get ready to take her out. Go ahead, Ben. Take her out of context. I would love to see that. Wouldn't we love to see that?
first of all, a compromise on climate change is like the easiest compromise there is. So, for example, many of the things that these folks are saying they oppose, like, for example, fracking. Fracking is one of the chief reasons why the carbon emissions in the United States have dropped, because people are using natural gas and oil as opposed to coal-powered emissions, right? Coal is much more carbon intensive. Fracking is much less carbon intensive. And yet, somehow, fracking is the bad guy. If Ami were to ask these people, how do you feel about nuclear power? My guess is they would all say, no, nuclear power is extremely bad as well. Right? We can't have nuclear power. So we're going to have, like, windmills? He happens to be right. Like, there are all these sort of words that get thrown around in politics, particularly by pundits, where people don't unpack them at all. Because once you unpack them, it becomes very clear that folks are very, very inconsistent in their own view of the world. They're tolerant except for the people they hate. And they're in favor of compromise except for the people they don't want to compromise.
Look at the leaps he just made in that statement. I'm going to replay it one more time. Follow his words.
Them at all. Because once you unpack them, it becomes very clear that folks are very, very inconsistent in their own view of the world. They're tolerant except for the people they hate. And they're in favor of compromise except for the people they don't want to compromise.
Wrong, because then I got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Not even going to use a scientific term here, not going to use a political term here. We're talking about just Ben Shapiro, the man. You just said, and I quote,
very clear that folks are very, very inconsistent in their own view of the world. They're tolerant except for the people they hate. And
they're tolerant except for the people they hate. So what would you call a white supremacist? Tolerant of the people, of everyone except the people they hate. Therefore, you're either saying that white supremacy is okay, or you're saying that these two things don't actually compare to each other, and I'm just making that up for the left. See what I mean? Disingenuous. I don't dislike you because of the color of your skin. I dislike you because I know in the back of your heart, it would take no more than a second for you to be like, if it's you or me, I'm not defending us, I'm in it for myself. That's intolerance. I'm tolerant of you, except if you're willing to, like, throw me under the bus over, like, anything to save your own skin. That's pushing that. Like, that's literally saying Nazis were cool. Like,
they're in favor of compromise except for the people they don't want to compromise.
They're in favor of compromise except for the people they don't want to compromise with. That doesn't go with what she just said. That didn't go with what anybody said. You happen to phrase that argument very well by saying some shit like, oh, if it were Republicans, you wouldn't want to compromise with them. First of all, these people are not in government, so they wouldn't know what's on these bills to even begin to know where to compromise at. Second of all, it's not the people. It's the people's ideas. You said the same thing twice, but you made two separate points by spreading out your words. That's not cool. That's not cool. If you really want to be a guy who sits at the top of the conservative tower, at the top of the mountain, and that's the hill you want to die on, at least pick better words. At least pick a better argument, because that's easy to see through. Because in that statement, you are then again saying nobody is correct, nobody is right, everybody fails. So how are you making the point that you're making about the left while simultaneously boosting up the point about the right? Either both are wrong, or you're making a shitty comparison because it gets you clicks and views. Huh, interesting.
With. They're totally in favor of decreasing government spending unless it means actually, picking programs where you decrease government spending. And they also happen to be totally in favor of defunding the police until it happens that there are no police on their block.
Defunding the police does not mean no police. Defunding the police means getting rid of their bloated budgets that allow them, like, imagine if a police officer shoots somebody and they had to go to court for it, and they were like, all right, we're not going to put you in jail, but you have a fine of $3 million, and there's no police fund to bail you out of it, so you're going to have to owe all that money. Oh, shit, I'm going to have to go into debt. Oh, shit, I'm probably going to have to leave my job. I can't stand, like, the repercussions of defunding the police would mean more police accountability in a way that doesn't allow them to just get away with the absolute corruption that exists within their departments, within the entirety of police as a whole. Therefore, you're yet again making these grand assumptions about start to end without connecting the dots, and your audience eats that up because they hear the words, the same thing you said. Oh, political pundits like to throw these words around and people don't unpack them. Well, I just unpacked them, and that means that you're either full of shit by accident, which I'll be perfectly okay with because everybody's allowed to express their opinions and make mistakes and learn and grow from them. But you've been in this so long that you're doing that shit on purpose, and that's sick. That's sick shit. That's sick shit. That's that's sick shit.
So people don't think through with any level of consistency their own politics. Obviously, Ami's doing a great job of exposing that here.
Which people? Interview some Republicans. You got those? I'm a spoiler alert. He doesn't.
At a point now where there's no compromise. If you're in coal, learn how to make solar panels.
Oh yeah, that'll work.
But that's compromise. That's as far as I go.
There really isn't room for compromise.
Can I hear the rest of it? Yo, he talks about getting people cut out of context.
No, 100% no.
Can you compromise on universal health care?
Well, I can't see not giving it to everyone.
Can you compromise on universal health care?
No.
What's the compromise there? Single payer and allowing the insurance industries to just have government as a competitor. What's the what would you want there to be a compromise for? Because we don't have it now. So if we're letting insurance companies pretty much dictate who lives or dies based on how much money they can afford for their medical care, then what would the compromise be? Half and half? That's insurance. That's insurance. It's fucking insurance. You could see where this would be a perplexing argument for anybody to have at any one time. You can see where, like, having these conversations leads people to just be like, shut the fuck up, twerp. Like, you need to go lubricate your wife's pussy. Try that for a second. Like, you need to compromise. Yo, I almost said it too. You need to compromise with some bitches. That's what you need to do.
Ultimately, no, I don't believe so.
Is there room to compromise on universal health care?
I guess not, no. No, other people, governments can do it, so I don't understand why we can't.
Right. By compromise, they mean you shut the hell up and you give in to everything that we could possibly want. Right? This is, and part of this is just the moral binary that's created by the media, is that they're not complex answers to complex questions like how do you provide healthcare? And the reality is that there are a bunch of different versions of how you provide healthcare. Right? They're largely privatized systems like Singapore. There are totally nationalized systems like the UK. There's a lot of variation and gradation in there. And the healthcare system in the United States is sort of a grab bag of various policies. So there's plenty of room for compromise on healthcare. And there has been historically a lot of compromise on healthcare. But nobody actually wants to contemplate that. So they just go with the easy one-size-fits-all answer, universal healthcare for all.
What about an issue like abortion?
Yeah, I think that one's pretty clear.
Oh my God, where would there be a compromise in that? One day, and I'm not going at my chat right now or my viewers, but if you're watching this and you're not in the chat like talking, there's probably a reason why, and I'm gonna let it go for right now. But when I get bigger, I'm going to shit on all these logical points that make no sense. So what about abortion? You either abort or you don't abort. Where is the 50-50 split there? Where is that? What do you want? What would you even be asking for on the other side of that aisle? You either want it or you don't. Oh, here's a compromise. I'll give you a compromise. I'll give you a cool one. Let's not have abortions after 6 months. Oh wait, we already have that. Unless there's a medical emergency. So there's a compromise. Oh, we have already got that. So pushing the issue side to side, we either increase the term limit for how long until you can have an abortion, which would suck because there's really nobody who's carrying a baby 8.5 months and then in the last 2 weeks before it's time, I don't want it no more. Like, or you just let women choose. Have you thought about that, guys? Maybe we should just, let women choose. They don't think about that. That's the compromise. Let women choose. That's the compromise. You'd be surprised how well that compromise works. Oh shit. The compromise is to let people live their lives. So that one's pretty clear cut. I wonder how you're going to spin that though.
Cut. It's yes, or I think there's
no room.
Yeah, there's
no room to compromise.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Is there a compromise to be had on abortion?
No.
No, it's their body. It's absolutely their body.
Income inequality. Should we compromise?
No, I think we should just have equality.
Can you compromise in fighting for income equality?
That's a
Conservatives love this shit. Leftists literally don't. This is where the infighting comes. What's the compromise on income equality if it's not fixing the income equality? The way you do so is where you compromise. But everyone has to agree to fix it first, right? Those are loaded questions set up to confuse young people into like not being able to answer without just saying it outright and forth because they're not old enough. I'm not even going to say old enough. I would assume, and this is a shitty assumption, and I am victim of this myself, which is why I'm making this assumption. I would assume that they're just not well knowledgeable enough to be able to make that point as strong as they want. So it's a gotcha. It's a catch-22. The answer to it has to be there is no compromise because the issue itself needs to be fixed before we start working on a split. People won't even agree to try to fix it. So how are we compromised? We are straight up just not informed enough facts. And that's not anybody's fault. I'm not going to sit here and shit on people for not knowing these things. I didn't know these things. The only reason I even began to care is because, honestly, to be honest with you guys, there was just too much that I didn't know that I needed to know because I was getting too fed up with why are these things happening the way they are. You guys don't understand how like damning it is for my heart to start like having trouble and thinking to myself, all I know, left good, right bad. Literally, like that's our compromise. Like, yo, you guys don't know how fucking bad it is for my dad to come home and be like, I couldn't get my teeth done, or like, I had to pay extra for my eyeglasses, or I'm not sure if I should go into the hospital to get this stuff because, insurance won't even cover it and they're giving me letters saying I owe this, and that amount. Like, what world do we live in which you want to compromise while people still got to like decide whether or not, maybe I should go to the hospital and get my teeth fixed. But each one of my teeth is $1,500 to get a fucking implant. So, I can't really afford $1,500 because I don't make $1,500 fucking dollars every month. Like, I got to decide between my teeth and rent. I'm picking my rent, bro. I would rather have a house for 30 days and not eat hot liquids than to be able to eat hot liquids on the street. Like, come on.
That's a heavy question. A compromise. Is there a compromise for... I can't think of one right now. Honestly, the 1% of this country are just way too... have too much.
No. You can't cover.
Okay, so words that we have learned from Ami that mean nothing for these folks are tolerance and compromise. So
he's lying. He's lying. Have we all come to the conclusion that he's lying? Now, you might say, well, this is just one video, He has plenty of other points that I'm sure you could agree with, which he probably does. I never put it past any of these guys. I might say they're disingenuous, but they're not stupid. That's one thing I will never say about Candace Owens. She's a little. Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro. Fuck. There's so many right wing pundits. Kind of dumb. It's intentional stupidity. Charlie Kirk. Fuck. PragerU. All of all of them. Like. No, Charlie's kind of dumb. Young Republicans are fucking stupid. I'll make that declaration. Young Republicans are fucking stupid because there's no way that you want to continue on this trend of conservatism in a world that literally is leaning as a global entity towards progressive values. Like you can't, you don't want to enter that field unless it's a grift, unless it's the fucking grift. So, and we all know grifters got a grift. So that puts me in that other spiral. I'll never say Ben Shapiro's a moron. Like, he's at least intelligent, but he uses that intelligence in a stupid way. He's intentionally stupid. Like that. There we go. There's a statement. I know I just said it, but like I want to clarify. Ben Shapiro is intelligent, but he uses that intelligence in a stupid way, which leads him to be able to make these claims, make these points by cherry picking these points out through a video he might watch, through a thing that he might do, and then builds on those points to reach shitty conclusions. He does it with his intelligence, which might lead him into that point, but then it's like, why do you have all that intelligence if you don't understand like what you're talking about? He understands it from his point of view, but he acts like his point of view is resolute and free of bias, which it's not. The point I'm making about you, Ben, sorry, wrong direction. The point I'm making about you, Ben, is that you're either lying by accident because that's the way your train of thought works, or you're lying on purpose because you know it gets clicks. Either way, but like good night. If you was in my chat, I'd snipe you out so bad, bro.
That's exciting stuff, and that is not a complete shock at all, because of course people who like to think of themselves as tolerant and moderate are in fact very intolerant and quite immoderate, as it turns out.
On issues that are important to you, you really shouldn't compromise.
Yeah.
On issues that are important to you, you really shouldn't compromise.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And issues that are right for like society and humanity.
Okay, so yeah, maybe earlier I said compromising, but maybe now that you're making me see them, yeah.
Do you think that we can unify with Republicans? Like, is there a real way to do that?
They'd have to, I tell you right now, here's how you unify with Republicans. You have to get Republicans on a progressive agenda, which is never going to happen. That's how you unify with Republicans. Now, a bunch of people are going to be like, that's bullshit. You just said like all that other stuff. Yeah, asking white street kids, like, I just brought that up earlier. Like, you picked the absolute worst sample size to make this point too. Like, you really think they were considering this on the top of their head and have all this shit on the top of their head in the middle of a pandemic where they probably were in college and like have no clue like what the fuck is going on? Is there a real way to the Republicans have to adopt the progressive ideology? Not as a whole, but like you got to stop with the whole black people, there's no systemic racism, you have to address these things from a Republican standpoint. That's the only way there will be unity between the two, because everything that you promote hurts the people that you apparently are fighting for, and that doesn't make any sense. So until you let go of this strange notion of why society is the way that it is, and stop pretending about like, oh, Donald Trump lost the election, blah, 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 this, that, whatever. Until you stop working for the rich, there will never be unity because you're not working for everyone. Republicans have to start working for everyone. And that means conceding on a lot of things that they think inside of their worldview that don't exist in real life. At that point, then it's like, all right, so now what do the Republicans take on climate change? Are they willing to help on that? Then we can start talking about unity and compromise. But we can't if they're literally denying its existence. The Southern strategy never happened. Like, yeah, I'm compromising with you on history that you don't even know about. Okay.
Maybe in the far future. I don't think right now there is.
You don't see any way to unify the Republicans? Yeah.
No, not to my knowledge.
Yeah, and that is the end of the story, right? Democrats, Joe Biden, these folks, they say unity, 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 but very often what they mean is nothing resembling unity. Because there's a real division on core
I want to make it clear. If you think I'm full of shit, and this is fine, you're allowed to. I would actually prefer people not to just sit there and agree with me every single second. I try to make my points as agreeable as possible, just so like if there are detractors, it's easy to find where you don't like the point and where we can have this discussion onward. But take a notice to the fact that he has not brought up the actual Republican solutions. Where would we compromise? You notice he brought up fracking. Fracking has been an issue because of where they frack, what it does to the communities inside of it. The issue is not that contributes less to climate change, therefore it is good. See how he skips the middles? That's my problem. Is that people who like to say, "Oh, I'm a centrist" or "I'm a right winger," but like I don't hate Democrats or whatever. Like, but you sit there and you eschew really strange. Oh, that's my ear. Sorry, I was wondering. I heard something in my ear. So I'm trying to figure out, why won't you say anything as to what your side is? Where's your position? Where do you land? You know how they used to say, where do you stand on the issues? Like, he won't say it. Why won't he say it? Because he knows that if he were to bring up the fact that Republicans just say no to this shit, conservatives just say no to this shit, that's where the compromise would lie. In your court, in your hands. But he refuses to. I wonder why. Thank you guys for helping me hit the Shifter Gang goal. It is so sick to watch 100 plus of you guys follow. Like, yo, growth has been crazy. I love you all. We're gonna finish this segment up.
Values in the country right now. There's one side of the country that is basically in hock to people who believe that the United States is systemically racist, that it is filled with.
Yo, one day I'm gonna get an alert that just pops up in the corner, just like, you said it, you predicted it. I literally brought that up. That's 4 times in this one video. I could see where you were gonna go before you even got there. I don't even have that much experience with you as a person, and I can already see through your bullshit. Therefore, if a common person like me could see through it, that means that you're either lying to your audience or somebody somewhere is repeating your points as though they were truth. And that's where the problem lies.
Evil and inequality and cruelty, and that we should aim for a completely different goal. We should aim for something more European in nature. And there are folks who believe that individual liberty is paramount. And it's very hard to square that circle. So I mean, honestly, like we ought to recognize the actual real life differences, and then maybe we can have some clarification on what we actually agree on. Because we've gotten to the point where the American flag is contentious. We've gotten to the point where basic family units are contentious.
Oh God, Black Lives Matter is killing the nuclear family argument. The American flag is literally raised with Trump supporters alongside the Confederate flag and Trump flags and Nazi flags. Therefore, it has devalued the American flag, and he knows exactly, like he knows what he's fucking talking about. The American flag, he was racist. Do you see Biden? Do you see leftists like America? No, we live in a democracy, and we're like, I'm not going to sit there with an American flag and talk about, I'm proud to be an American. I'm just an American who's like sick of the injustices being handed to other Americans. But it seems like the American flag, when it comes to Trump supporters and conservatives, only represents white people and people who agree with their ideology. Therefore, if I am to be correct in that statement, I can make the logical conclusion that if it only seems to belong to white people, because, you know, MAGA loves the blacks, MAGA loves the blacks. That's why I have conservatives in my YouTube comments every single day talking about this, that, and the other, and how like I should know better because I'm a black person. Because MAGA loves the blacks. The blacks. It's like they're straight up like, yo, we're just going to take Family Guy's whole rhetoric and we're just going to, that's our political party. Family Guy plus American Dad plus Arrested Development. That's their whole platform now. I'm just going to be as obtuse as possible and make as many, I'm meme content. The Republican Party is meme content. And they just spinning on their heels. Like, you put all your chips in one white dude. He ended up turning out to be like like low key, I don't like everybody that's not white. And y'all ran with it, and now you're just stuck there. Now you stuck like those people stuck in the air in Washington D.C. because they're on a no-fly list. That's what's going on.
If everything's contentious, then there's really no room for everybody to get along. But we're going to have to find some common ground, or this is all going to collapse in on itself very, very quickly. And I think that is what Ami is featuring right there. By the way, I think that if you asked these folks, are you friends with any Republicans? Like, can you name a single friend of yours who voted for Trump? My guess is they would say no.
You did not reach that conclusion using any facts other than your own bias. I have Republican friends. I have Republican friends who denounced this shit, who voted for Trump and was like, I thought he would be like he'd run it like an efficient business. Matter of fact, what was it? Election night. A friend of mine on the stream introduced me to a friend of his roommate. And he was like, look, I voted for Trump for these reasons in small business, and I'm a logger, and like the things that he's doing has helped increase our business tenfold. And like, I think in a money perspective, that's fine. That's great. And there was no argument there. I can see, because you explained yourself well, I voted for the policy that I thought was coming. I voted for the policies that were coming. I enjoyed his presidency in that realm. I did not enjoy any other part of it. That's great. Okay. I just made a fallacy myself, and I will correct myself. If you make it and you're watching this VOD on YouTube, if you make it here, here's where I'll concede. That is a compromise. I can see you agreeing with the policies economically that benefited you. But that same guy was like, I don't agree with anything else he's saying. I don't agree with this uprising. I don't agree with any of like his rhetoric. It was just that policy, those policies that helped me out. Good. So now we find a non-racist Republican, or we find a Democrat that supports these policies. Boom, I'm voting for that guy. And he agreed with that. That's a compromise. I don't hate him. Oh, you voted for Trump? What were your reasons? This, that, and the other. Explaining themselves straight through, all the way out. That's great. That's where I'll draw the line and be like, I could be friends with a Republican. But a Trump supporter all the way through, MAGA! I gotta have me my MAGA in the morning, or else I'm gonna go nuts. I gotta storm the Capitol because they stole my president. They stole my white man. He was gonna give us new white flags. He was gonna do all this for us. I refuse to have it stolen from me. You fucking chud. Like, you're a chud. Good night. Good night. It's over for you. You're getting clapped. It's over for you. Like, what did you expect to happen? That's where I can concede, and I can compromise, and I can unify with Republicans based on policy value. But morally, I don't have a friend of mine. I don't have anybody in my circle that voted for Trump who agrees that he's a moral great man. Because obviously.
Whereas if you ask most Republicans, can you name a single person who you are friendly with who voted for a Democrat? The answer is, I'm sure, in much larger numbers, yes. I think
that's disingenuous. How did you get that point from whatever you just said? My guess is yes, that's my opinion. But based on what you just said in this entire 9-minute video, you'd be lying. So either you're lying because your brain is telling you you're telling the truth because of your bias, or you're lying because you know your audience is going to eat that up. Either way, you're a liar. Therefore, you are disingenuous. Therefore, no one should take you serious. Therefore, you shouldn't have a platform as big as you do.
I think there's a reason for that. And that is, it turns out that the folks who proclaim themselves the most tolerant are usually the most intolerant because they have deemed themselves the beneficiaries of the moral high ground. They are.
I fight for everybody. Republicans fight for a small group of people. How am I not as morally superior? Healthcare is bad, guys. Just die. Republicans be like, oh, you got a missing leg? Just go to work. Just get a job, bro. Like, this whole video is an entire Republicans be like, all my homies hate, like.
The architects of a better moral universe in which they get to rule from on.
Yeah, ruling by making everybody equal. Yeah, ruling.